Okay, it was a bad night for the frontrunners. Ted Cruz and Bernie Sanders scoring big victories in Wisconsin's presidential primaries, possibly dashing any hope that Donald Trump and Hillary Clinton may have had in wrapping up the race anytime soon. Cruz beating Trump by 13 points, 48-35, entitling the Texas senator to virtually all of the Badger State's 42 delegates. Now, Cruz calling the win a turning point.
God bless the great state of Wisconsin. Tonight is a turning point. It is a rallying cry. It is a call from the hardworking men and women of Wisconsin to the people of America. We have a choice, a real choice.
On the Democratic side, Bernie Sanders continuing his winning streak, telling a big crowd of his supporters that he has the momentum and a path to win the nomination.
With our victory tonight in Wisconsin, we have now won 7 out of 8 of the last caucuses and primaries. And we have won almost all of them with overwhelming landslide numbers.
In the meantime, it was virtually radio silence from the losing frontrunners. Hillary Clinton tweeting her congratulations to Sanders and saying, quote, "To all the voters and volunteers who poured your hearts into this campaign, forward, exclamation point, signed H." And Trump's response, well, let's just say it wasn't a bouquet of flowers or an edible arrangement. In blistering words squarely aimed at Ted Cruz and the party establishment, his campaign releasing a statement saying, quote, "Donald J. Trump withstood the onslaught of the establishment yet again. Lion Ted Cruz had the governor of Wisconsin, many conservative talk radio show hosts, and the entire party apparatus behind him. Ted Cruz is worse than a puppet. He is a Trojan horse, being used by the party bosses attempting to steal the nomination from Mr. Trump." Any truth, Stephen Hayes, to what Trump was alleging last night? Is Ted Cruz a Trojan horse?
No, I mean, look, first of all, that's a ridiculous claim that he's stealing the nomination. You need 1,237 delegates to get the nomination. Donald Trump doesn't have it. There's nothing to be stolen at this point. But on the broader point, I think what Wisconsin did actually was discredit the argument that you've heard from Trump and his supporters so often, that this is simply a battle between Trump on the one hand and the establishment on the other hand. I mean, it is preposterous in the extreme to suggest that Scott Walker, the governor who implemented these bold conservative reforms in Wisconsin, had to fight off the left for years for having done so, rallied the entire National Republican Party around him and the conservative movement, that Scott Walker supporting Ted Cruz, who's the most anti-establishment member of Congress, is somehow a representation or a manifestation of the establishment and puppet masters. I mean, it's a silly argument on its face, and I hope what will happen from this point forward is people will understand that the opposition to Donald Trump, certainly there is a Republican establishment, and certainly many of those people oppose Donald Trump, but most of the opposition to Donald Trump comes from Republicans who have been toiling in the fields of Republican electoral politics across the country, conservative movement types who have been working for conservative policies for decades in some cases. That's the real opposition to Trump. It's not this binary choice. More complicated. Before we open up to the couch, how much do you think that attacking Governor Walker hurt Trump? Yeah. Because our one lucky guy yesterday, Congressman Duffy from Wisconsin as well, he was on earlier today and he said that played a pretty big role. Yeah, I mean, it's a great question. Trump was doing this in July when Scott Walker was in the race. He was saying, in effect, look, this guy's got these huge deficits, that his reforms didn't work, he refused to raise taxes. And at the time, it made sense, I guess, because Scott Walker was in the race, even though it wasn't likely to resonate with Wisconsin voters. But to do it in Wisconsin, when Walker's out of the race, to basically recycle the arguments that Wisconsin Republicans had been hearing for years from Democrats in the state. I mean, the deficit is gone. Trump just doesn't know what he's talking about on that. And to criticize a Republican governor for refusing to raise taxes, that's just an odd argument.
Was that his biggest mistake? Is that what hung him up in Wisconsin? Or was it the fact that he was coming off of what he himself has described as one of the worst weeks in his campaign?
I think that was probably his biggest mistake. I think the other major factor here was that there was 2 weeks for Wisconsin voters to scrutinize Donald Trump, and they had him to himself, right? I mean, this was 2 weeks before the last one, and he took a lot of heat, a lot of difficult questions from conservative talk radio hosts in Wisconsin, several of them, asking very difficult questions, following up with difficult questions, which Trump just really hasn't gotten much of.
Well, it's interesting what you say, because I see some comparisons now as we head into New York. That big time gap, that 2-week gap. Now, Donald Trump is cozier, if you will, a little bit more with his hometown crowd, the New Yorkers. Right. However, the New York media, an extension of that. However, those tough questions now are going to continue to come. The CNN ORC poll that came out early yesterday that showed only 24% of women within Wisconsin were supporting Donald Trump. That could continue to be a challenge for him. Albeit in this particular state, Hillary Clinton doesn't have that many supporters among that group of women as well. Yeah. But for him in particular, it's tough. It might put New York in play in a different way. He's still up by 30 points in most of the state, but it might put it more in play with Ted Cruz than it ever would have been before Wisconsin.
Well, it'll be interesting to see. I mean, actually, one of the things that sort of surprised me coming out of the exit polls was that he didn't see as much deterioration among women voters.
Yeah,
it's true.
As one might have expected, given the focus on, you know, women and the things he said about women over the past couple weeks. But I think this is much friendlier territory here in New York, and I would expect that he would do quite well. There's some talk that he could win all 95 delegates. I wouldn't be surprised if he did. But, you know, we're going to have a spirited campaign.
Win, is that a loss for Donald Trump in New York? I mean, if he doesn't get a huge win?
Well, I mean, I think people are expecting him, if you look at the people who follow the delegate counts and look at this, like Nate Silver at 538, expect him to get nearly all 95 delegates.
Sure. And he's polling very well in my home state of Pennsylvania as well.
He is. I mean, they have a little, it's a complicated delegate allocation process because 54 of those delegates will be unbound, but he's doing well there as well.
Yeah. Well, you mentioned those exit polls, how he didn't erode too much with women in Wisconsin. Another fascinating exit poll, check this out. If there is no GOP majority, what should the GOP do, we asked, and it looked like it came out. Nominate the candidate who has the most votes at 55%. Delegates think best at 43%. So a majority of folks in Wisconsin think whoever got the most votes should be the one who gets the nomination, Katie. It looks like, though, last night, it is going to head to some kind of brokered convention. It's not going to be as clear as Trump wanted it.
Well, I think, you know, we've heard Ted Cruz last night say that this is a turning point in the campaign. I don't necessarily think it's a turning point. Ted Cruz still has a tough road ahead of him. It's not like Ted Cruz is now going to march forward and win every single primary that we have left. I think he'll probably do better than he's done in the past, and Trump now has been, the brakes have been tapped, right? This isn't a turning point. It's just that we're slowing down and that we're more likely to go to a convention. And this requires the Trump campaign, the Cruz campaign, and the Kasich campaign, which, by the way, Marco Rubio has more delegates today than John Kasich does today. But it requires a whole another level of campaign style. I mean, they're going to have to talk to the delegates. They're going to have to see what they're thinking, whether they want to be bound to the candidate that they are on the first ballot with or not. And so there's a whole other round here of strategy that the campaigns have to go through, and it's going to be interesting to see which campaign is better at it.
That being said, you can say that the odds are raised now that we will see a contested convention. What does that look like?
I mean, you know, if you're just as a reporter, I mean, it's fantastic. This is what we all love. This would be great.
We agree.
It's sort of blood sport.
We'll be in Cleveland for 2 weeks, guys.
But I think it did get much harder for Trump. I mean, he's won about 46% of the delegates thus far, depending on how you count, and he will now need to win about 58% of the remaining delegates. So that means he's got to do better at a time when it seems like his campaign is having some additional trouble. So I think that's a problem. On the question of 1237, I mean, this is something that I think people are making very complicated and doesn't need to be complicated. If Donald Trump gets 1237, if he gets the requisite number of delegates, I mean, I'm not a Trump guy. He's the nominee, and there should be no funny business. I mean, nobody, none of the Republican establishment or people working against Trump should try to take it away from him if he wins 1237. If he has 1236 or anything short of 1237, I would say the party and its members and the other candidates have every right to fight him and to challenge him and to try to keep him from getting the nomination.
Stephen, just a fundamental sort of abstract question about the Republican Party I think people are wondering about. Ted Cruz's supporters are passionate about him. Donald Trump's supporters are passionate about him. If one of these men does not get the nomination, how does the party unite, because the Trump supporters and the Cruz supporters, they don't seem to get along. Just take a look at Twitter. What does the party do at this point?
Yeah, I mean, I think you're looking at a party that is badly fractured and is likely to be badly fractured for a long time going forward. I don't buy a lot of the talk or a lot of the speculation that there will be some white knight coming in and somebody who's not running will be sort of parachuted in. I mean, I suppose it's technically possible if nobody gets a majority and you're talking about something way down the line on the 10th or 12th ballot.
Rhymes with
I think
ball
it's far more. I don't think he wants to do it. I don't think there's a push for him to do it. I really don't. I mean, I would think that I would know if this were happening. Maybe I'm just not as good a reporter as I think I am, but I don't think it's happening.
You're a good reporter, Stephen.
I try.
It's not
I don't
happening.
always do
and,
well,
and
but
if
I
it
try.
did, can you imagine the destruction of the Republican Party? Not realistic. All right.